Wrap up warm, because cold is our subject this time. Life in the Arctic and the Antarctic. Penguins and polar bears are warm-blooded. This crocodile mother is cold-blooded, but very warm-hearted. In Ecuador, there's a little bird that almost freezes solid every single night. And we've two wonderful cold weather animals from Japan. You can keep warm in a hot tub, or you can dance. Love in a cold climate. And we start in Japan, where many of the mountains are sacred, and some of the animals too.
There are over 60 active volcanoes running through the Japanese chain of islands. And the mountains are strewn with both temples and hot volcanic springs. And it's here that a sacred animal lives, the most northerly of all primates, the snow macaque. Monkeys are usually associated with the equatorial regions, where temperatures hardly vary, and there's plenty of food. But here, north of Tokyo, less than a kilometre from the site of the 1998 Winter Olympics, these tropical creatures have adapted themselves well to the wintry conditions. They have extra thick, furry coats and build up fat in the summer months from a diet of fruit, leaves and insects. Then in the winter, when they're reduced to grubbing in the snow for bark and tree buds, and if there are no humans to feed them, they draw over half the calories they need from this store of fat. They've been closely studied, and some of their behavior is fascinating. They seem to know how to make snowballs, and actually enjoy playing in the snow, just like children. And the macaques have another activity which they appear to have copied from us. The hotels up here have hot tubs for their visitors to bathe in. But the monkeys, both intelligent and adaptable, simply took them over. This activity is no mystery. Winter temperatures can drop to 15 degrees below, so a warm bath is irresistible. In fact, there were soon so many monkeys playing in this hotel's hot tub that the management constructed a separate pool for them. The macaques have a special place in Japanese hearts and folklore. They're regarded as the spirit of the forest, as symbols of both wisdom and mischief. And in Kyoto, there's even a monkey temple. In this park, though, which is known as Hell Valley, this troop is fondly known as Hell's Imps. Did you know that when it comes to raising young, the snowy owls of the Arctic depend entirely on the local lemming population? In years when lemmings, the owl's staple diet, are in short supply, the owls are unable to breed. The snowy owl is the largest bird of prey in the Arctic. But down on the equator, there's a tiny bird that nearly freezes to death every single night.
At daybreak, high in the Ecuadorian Andes, a female hill-star hummingbird deliberately shivers all her muscles. She lives at around 4,000 meters, where the temperature falls below zero every night, and with the highest metabolic rate in the bird world, she's unable to store enough energy to get her through the night. So each evening, she slows her metabolism and enters a state of torpor, only emerging from it when the morning sun thaws her out. The first thing she does is takes a drink. She can't function without water, while the male, who also hibernates every night, is already feeding. To conserve energy, he settles on the flower rather than hovering over it like other hummingbirds. The female's body temperature has now risen by 20 degrees. She's refueled with nectar and is busy with the important business of building a nest and raising a family. And it's all done at a furious pace. The male takes no part in the nest building, which may occupy the female for as long as 4 months. She chooses her spot carefully. The nest needs to be out of the mountain winds. And she uses an incredible array of delicate materials, from spider's gossamer to soft owl feathers. Her young, even more vulnerable than she is, need to be well protected from the freezing night. And this arrives all too soon. As the temperature falls, she lowers her metabolism to 1/50th of its normal level and enters a state of suspended animation. If she didn't do this, she would starve to death during the night. And then, come the dawn, it all begins again. In relation to her body, her heart is the largest in the animal kingdom, beating 1,200 times per minute when she's in flight. A tiny creature with a big heart, locked each night in deadly combat against the cold. Heading due north, we find another mother, but she can hibernate for more than half the year. Winter temperatures in the Arctic can drop below -60 degrees centigrade. But as spring approaches, one of the most ferocious Arctic predators emerges.
This female polar bear has been hibernating for 8 months. She's hungry. And so is this Arctic fox. A seal pops up for some air. It's had to keep its breathing hole open all winter long, breaking the continually forming ice. If it froze over, the seal would be unable to surface, unable to breathe, and its fate would be sealed. A male polar bear clambers onto an ice floe. They're excellent swimmers with semi-webbed feet and cover huge distances in search of food. One polar bear was recorded as having traveled over 5,000 kilometers in 1 year. Seals are the polar bear's favorite meal. The female bear has now left her snow cave, and judging by the tracks, she is not alone. She has a cub with her. The cub was born in the snow den, and this is its first venture into the open. The mother must find food soon if they're both to survive. Arctic foxes often follow polar bears, hoping to pick up a few scraps. But this time, the fox has been lucky and has found a seal carcass all on his own. He eats quickly, for the carcass will soon be public property. The female bear has picked up the scent. She approaches, but she also senses that something's wrong and hesitates. A male bear is somewhere about. In the Arctic, the only threat a polar bear faces is another polar bear, and the female knows that this male might easily kill her youngster. She is cautious. hunger draws her forward, but her maternal instinct to protect her cub restrains her. For the fox, there's only one imperative. Eat as much as you can, as quickly as you can. Her cub is unconcerned, but mother knows better. The male bear is over 3 times her size, and his sense of smell is so acute that he can detect a seal over 30 kilometers away. There's little chance of his missing this one. Finally, she decides enough is enough. The little fox, though, is keeping his nerve rather better. But it's no contest, really. A male polar bear is one of the world's largest predators. And he gets the prize. Unlike the fox, the bear has little trouble ripping into his frozen food. He is the heavyweight hunter of the Arctic, and he caters unknowingly for a whole host of other creatures. They dine here in this coldest of lands on the scraps that the polar bears leave behind. But did you know that if a colony of penguins met a polar bear, they wouldn't know what it was? That's because you only find penguins in the southern hemisphere and polar bears in the northern hemisphere. The two have never encountered each other. And it's due south that we're headed now, down towards the Antarctic Circle.
These are king penguins, and they've come to the island of South Georgia to breed. This colony consists of hundreds of pairs, each keeping a precise distance away from their neighbours, and the noise is deafening. All the courtship rituals are over. The female has laid her single egg, and it's tucked between her belly and her feet. This keeps the egg off the frozen earth and at a constant temperature, and it's here that the 54-day incubation takes place. But the female does not incubate the egg on her own. In fact, shortly after the egg is laid, she transfers it to her male partner. This handing over of the egg must be done as swiftly as possible. If it's left for too long on the icy ground, the developing chick within it will die. The male then tucks the egg into his brood pouch, and the female heads for the sea, off on an 18-day fishing trip to gain some weight. They're curious creatures though, king penguins, and this group has come across something very interesting. There used to be a whaling station on South Georgia, but that is now abandoned, and the only human occupants are here to study the penguins themselves. The fascination is mutual. Back in the colony, the eggs have hatched, and the chicks, enveloped like a teapot in a tea cosy, are growing and hungry. They feed on regurgitated fish, and they will remain passengers on their parents' feet for over a month, constantly swapping from one to the other. There's no protecting the penguin observers from the frozen ground. They just have to lie on it, as the babies go from strength to strength. After about 40 days, the chicks are strong enough to venture out on their own, and then both parents go to sea to catch food for them, until the chicks are fatter than the adults. The first people to see these giant woolly birds believe them to be an entirely new species of penguin. It can take the youngsters about a year before they're fully fledged, but once they're in their adult plumage, they are a true king amongst birds. In the natural world, it's often the climate that's cold, but sometimes it's the animals themselves.
There are many more cold-blooded creatures on this planet than warm-blooded. And cold blood certainly doesn't prevent creatures reaching enormous sizes. Crocodiles can grow to 7 meters in length and weigh 3 tons. The crocodile has hardly changed in 70 million years. They were around when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. For them, cold blood and a hefty size have been a very successful strategy. But another explanation for their success may lie in their parenting skills. Although cold-blooded, female crocodiles are very warm-hearted mothers. It's evening, and a female is laying her eggs high up on the riverbank. Her nest is a heap of old vegetation, and as it decomposes, it gives off heat, which helps incubate the eggs. Crocodile eggs are a very tempting meal for a whole host of hungry predators. The female will guard her nest for the 90 days it takes the eggs to hatch. When the young are ready to hatch, they start to make a mewing sound while still inside their shells. This alerts their mother, and she opens the nest. And now she displays her true maternal qualities. The helpless little hatchlings, only 20 centimeters long, are tenderly lifted from the nest and carried one by one to the river's edge. The youngsters patiently wait their turn, though some of the bolder ones will make their own way to the water. In the river, the mother gently releases the first baby, and only a few hours after hatching, it takes its first swim. This good parenting is one reason why crocodiles have survived for so long. But another is perhaps their ability to communicate with each other. Scientists have worked out that crocs have 18 different calls, a more complex language than any other reptile. Once they're in the water, the hatchlings have a voracious appetite. And they're not the only ones. Other bigger crocodiles are just as hungry, and they'll happily eat these youngsters. By the time they're fully grown, they'll be 4,000 times larger than they are now, and every bit as fearsome as their protective mother.
Did you know that when a seal dives under the ice for food, it can swim 1.5 kilometers? During the dive, its heartbeat falls from 100 beats per minute to around 9, and it can hold its breath for 2 hours. Well, the tiny hummingbird only survives the cold by hibernating. But on the island of Hokkaido, there's a bird that likes the chill so much that it dances.
Often painted and used in illustrations, the red-crowned crane is another of Japan's sacred animals. It's the second rarest species of crane in the world. There are less than 2,000 in existence, and the largest population is found here on Japan's most northern island. Large-bodied birds are better able to cope with the cold than smaller ones because they lose heat more slowly. And the cranes feed happily in these icy streams, eating frogs and insects. But large cranes require large territories. And as the wetlands are drained and the reeds harvested by farmers, the birds' natural habitat is dwindling and they have to keep looking for fresh feeding grounds. But the cranes do have one advantage. They're faithful parents and are seen by the Japanese as symbols of fidelity. They're thought to bring good luck, and little models of them are sold all over Japan. Some farmers, to encourage them to settle on their land, bringing their luck with them, actually feed them, scattering seed on the snow. Once the cranes have had enough to eat and their bellies are full, they put on a performance that attracts thousands of birdwatchers and has made them world famous. It's part courtship, part confirming the lifelong bonds between them. And it's without doubt one of the most gracious dances in the animal world.